Hello, once again. Today, we're going to be looking at, oh wow, guess what? Another keyboard. I mean, it's kind of just like what I do at this point. But today we got the Epomaker Lite. I think it's like a GK61 or something along those lines. I mean, I already opened it because I am really impatient, but here it is. It's got the Earl Grey keycaps. These are die sub PBT keycaps, and I got it with the chocolate white switches. Those are like an Epomaker special. And this is the ALU. I think it's called the ALU drum case. It's black. Those are the switches. They look really nice. I like the look of them quite a bit. Very pretty. I mean, it's probably a little too shaded in there for you to actually see them, but you'll see them in a bit when I take this thing apart. But man, this thing is really high quality for like the price. Granted, there is not as much flex as is advertised at all. Like, not even really that close, but it does look good and it does feel really good stock. So, I mean, if you're looking for a pretty good stock keyboard, this isn't a bad shout. However, I got the polycarb extra plate, which interestingly included this a second set of stabs with it. You can see this polycarb is very flexy. And one thing we'll see later is that the stabs are completely different, or not completely, but very different. Those stabs on the polycarb plate are completely unlubed. They are to your liking, so you should definitely know that if you tune them. And it also comes with multi-spacebar support. So we also got a couple extra keycaps. It has Mac support, as well as an alternate Windows key, or not Windows key, but the little, I don't know, the stupid Mac symbols. Who gives an F about that, you know? Also, this nice braided cable. It has a side profile USB-C thing for the keyboard, and then also has a USB converter. So it's normally just USB-C, but this one has a converter. Also, normally I don't like when people do like weird cables, because then like it's harder to use on other stuff. Oh, also doesn't smell bad, which is a big plus for a braided cable that you buy for relatively cheap. And the included FR4 or aluminum, I actually don't know. I think it's aluminum, but the included aluminum plate also has a split spacebar support as well, which is nice. I don't remember what this thing is. I'm recording this after. Oh, right. Just a little keycap puller. Oh, and then we got this weird little tube package that I think it just has like extra screws and stuff for in case you need backups, or if you wanted to, I guess, have two plates ready to install. I don't know, but it had extra like screws and washers and the little O-rings and whatnot. So it has a little bit of everything, which is kind of nice to have included. We also got extra switches, which is a nice inclusion as well for the board. I mean, nice in case they're broken, I guess, or come dead on arrival. And then it came with these like kind of just weirdo keycaps. I don't even know how to describe them, but they're just like these really strange, like rubberized caps that have like gaps in them where the little rubber like hooks in. I don't know, very weird. But it's the only these are the only keycaps that come with the kit that support the split spacebar, which I find very strange. They feel unique. Good or bad, sure, they feel unique. That's all I can really say about them. But now it's time for the sound test. So we now need to take apart the board. Of course, got to take the keycaps off first. Honestly, pretty good base board. The keycaps they look good, pretty good quality. And aside from a little bit of rattle on the stabilizers, which is a pretty easy fix for clip-ins, it's very good as a base board. That being said, let's take a look. We've got these pink stem switches in the mods, or in the ones with stabilizers, which is interesting. They have a much higher actuation force than the regular pink switches, and I was just kind of curious if they did this because the chocolate whites like had issues with the stabilizers coming back up. But after a little bit of testing, it doesn't seem like that was the problem. So I'm not really sure why they included these other switches in here, but I guess it's kind of cool. And I guess they included, well, I think three of the 4 white switches to be able to put back on there if you don't like the pinks. But this does have a pretty generous amount of lube on the pre-installed stabilizers. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, there you go. There's a big old glob of it right there. But yeah, I mean, they're not too bad. They're a little wiggly, like I mentioned. If you just band-aid the sides, it would actually fix a lot of the problems. And it would be a pretty good board overall. I don't know if I recommend these switches. I got them because they're pretty. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit. Got all the switches out, and now we take down the case. There's a good number of screws because this is a pseudo tray mount. I mean, it is basically a tray mount. It's a sort of not tray mount, sort of is. It's definitely a tray mount. It's called shallow gasket, but to be honest, it's just a high quality tray mount. It's kind of O-ring, but like not really. It doesn't have that much flex. Definitely not enough to be called a gasket mount in any way. So a word of warning to you if you are buying this keyboard. If you plan to change out the plate, know that they glued the standoffs for the one that it comes with into the plate. And the plastic one, or the polycarb plate, has its own ones that you need to screw in from the back of the PCB. And those are also mounted into the plate itself. So just keep that in mind if you're going to do this. So how I got these little bastards off is I use these really, like, I guess they're basically cutters, but they're kind of like pliers too. Whatever. Basically, I ripped off some of the glue just to get it hopefully loose enough. And then I used a pretty strong thing like this to loosen the screw or start turning it. You have to be very careful not to scratch the PCB, obviously, but then I hold the standoff from the other side because it will rotate, and then I took some tweezers and I just did that a little bit. Eventually, after the first couple of twists, it's loose enough that you can just kind of actually, you could even do it with your fingers probably at this point, but I just wanted to be extra cautious, I guess, of damaging anything on the PCB. And then you just take them off. So I did all like 5 of them. It was annoying. And then I discovered there was one more that I missed a little bit after this, but that's okay. Another note about this is that the polycarb spacebar that it came with was actually, it had the stabilizer installed on the wrong side. So if you can see, it's just barely lined up a little bit off center. So that when you try to put a switch in, the pins won't line up. So I had to realize that it was not perfectly centered, and then after I tuned the stabilizers, I put it in the other way, and then it started working. So just keep that in mind. It did scare me. I was like, oh my god, did they give me a polycarb that just didn't fit? Like, dude. So I also wanted to use this to show you guys how I've been modding these stabilizers. I got them quite how I like them. They're not too bad. For clip-ins, these ones need to be clipped and probably re-lubed. Well, the ones from the polycarb board for sure, because they are completely unlubed. So because they have the little legs, we're going to go ahead and grab our cutter things, and then I kind of cut it at like a diagonal angle, just getting the edge of the front part, and then I don't want it to go flying, so I did that. I've been doing them over the trash can, and one of them fell in some fried rice, but that's fine. It needed the lube anyway. This one, pretty good. You can see that the bottom is now completely flat. And also just to make sure you clean up your cutter things. And then now that it is flat, we'll just set it aside. Of course, we got to do the other one. That one did go flying, but it's okay. I think I found it later. I actually don't remember. I should go check. Then I took a little bit of Krytox and I put it on the inner housing for each of the stabs, and then I put them over there so they don't get on my desk mat thing that's already filthy. Then I put some on the outer part of the stem, and then I put them together, and then I set them aside. Of course, you make sure the two holes line up with the front. And then we're going to put some dielectric grease on the wire, because I like some thicker grease for those wires. Make sure they don't rattle as much. I did have some problems with this specific shift key a little bit later on, but I don't know. I've never really wire balanced these tiny wires. I'm not sure if they ever need it. But I did wire balance the spacebar, and it came pretty well balanced. So I guess that's good, even though it shipped like completely separately from the box, which kind of scared me. Just a little snap it in. There we go. And it's easy to install. Also an easy one to double check your mods, even if the keyboard is fully assembled, which is nice. Also, something to note is that these stabilizers are very well packed in there. Like, I basically can't wiggle them at all, which is really good, especially compared to the aluminum board that they came with, where they have a pretty good amount of wiggle. I definitely noticed that when I first took apart the board, when I was a little bit worried I'd have to do some extra modding to the polycarb board, but thankfully it did not need it at all. Also, you can see that they're like reverse colored, so one is black on white, one is white on black, which is interesting. Also, Rhiannon cut out some neoprene, which is a much thicker foam than the one that came with the board itself. I think that it helped a pretty good amount. Obviously, you don't want to cover the battery, but everything else is nice and neoprened, and it's nice and elastic. So for this build, we're going to be using the Red Jacket linears. I've had them for quite a while now, and they sound and feel really good. They're basically completely pre-lubed without really needing any extra work. And of course, when you're installing switches, it does always help to actually turn on the keyboard and put on a key tester so that you make sure you don't bend any of them and then discover it later and then have to do it again. And for the keycaps, we're doing the Spring and Kyoto Tai Hao keycaps. I've had these for a while, and they're a cubic profile, which is great because these are north-facing LEDs and they have a double shot PBT and shine through. So kind of a perfect fit for this keyboard, and I think they look really good, very unique, and Rhiannon wanted the little glowy 7. In the end, aside from the glue on the little standoff pieces, this was a pretty fun build. I mean, I enjoyed trying out some new stuff, trying out the neoprene as a case fill, and it's pretty nice, especially compared to like the stuff that normally comes in cases, which is some extremely thin foam. Like, at that point, why even bother? But I really like the profile of this case. I really like the way that it sounds. It has a pretty unique sound among even the keyboards that we have already. And I'm enjoying it. It's pretty cool. We did change out the spacebar because the Tai Hao spacebar has, like, it has texture to it. Like, it's not die sub and it's not double shot. Those characters on there are like I don't know, it's like melted on there with plastic or something. I don't know, it's kind of weird. But every other key is fine and feels good. But for some reason that spacebar, it was like kind of scratchy, which is kind of weird. But whatever. We just did a blank one. But thankfully the case or the set was accommodating of whatever we wanted. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate you watching me build another keyboard, or even just watching the sound test, because I sent the video to you and was like, hey, check this out. Anyway, thank you guys, and I'll see you next time.